Thank you, everyone who has stopped by before we started the actual show. Um, we did do a 8 minute and 46 seconds moment of silence to recognize George Floyd in remembrance and also give credence to the Black Lives Matter movement. It's an important topic and everyone should be talking about it. Even though it is tough, it's important that we put it out there because it's about time that everything involved with Black Lives Matter comes to an end. It's absolutely ridiculous that we're still dealing with that particular issue anywhere in the world, especially in 2020. But with that said, I would like to very much introduce some hosts that I have known for a long time, either have just recently met or have been super incredibly nervous to even approach and talk to, one of which, someone who has been on the Square Enix stage for Feast and other PvP content. Brian, how are you, my friend? What's going
Yeah, let
on?
me do my intro again. Everyone already heard me, but I'm a pretty casual raider, just tier. I've done up to 7. I play healer, mostly astral. I think I'm best at white mage in PvE though, but I'm mostly known for PvP. Um, that's where I play feast. I do the ranked matches and aim for top 10, top 100 every season since season 1. And yeah, I played on NA FanFest on stage.
Wow, yeah, that was uh, the Taru, Dynamic Taru, who we had on the Tankasode last time, suggested that I reach out to you. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, this will be awesome. I'd love to get involved in the PvP community. This would be great. And then
Yeah.
Brian and I were talking, and then he sent me his credentials, and I was like, oh, uh, hi, hi. I've
but
only had
to
one
be
episode, but hi.
but to be clear, I played red mage on stage. I did not play healer.
True, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was incredibly awesome. So thank you for being here and being a guest host. It does mean a lot. But someone
No
who
problem.
I have met through becoming a Twitch streamer in Final Fantasy XIV in particular, someone who I think is one of the sweetest persons that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know. Reizna, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me here, Talon. I'm Reizna. I met Talon a couple months ago. I have been tuning in because of Moogle Go Round Radio and Maelstrom Radio as well. And he was really fun to watch, and I really enjoyed your Talon Teaches episodes. So that's when I started watching. I am a variety streamer. I did get my start with trying to get through the entire Kingdom Hearts series, but then got more comfortable with my Final Fantasy XIV playthroughs. I have a million ults on Aether, including a Grahatia ult, who I absolutely adore. I love him. Um, and I used to main Scholar. I still do for main story content, but I did switch over to Dancer since I started rating last tier and actually this tier as well. I'm still pretty new to it, so I'm still learning the tips and tricks here and there. And it's been great. It's been fun. And thank you for having me here.
No, thank you for coming and being on board. I really appreciate you giving your perspective. It's really really awesome, and yeah, I've been following your streams for a while, and your Persona 5 playthroughs have made me really want to get into playing that game. A lot of people talk about it, but
It's fun. It's very fun.
and someone who is very dear to me and has been responsible, though they both will deny it, and I will keep saying it. for as long as this channel exists. Been a great dear friend of mine who I met in Labyrinth of the Ancients, who I thought was a part of the She Heals I Tank podcast. Chille from Moogle Go Round Radio, someone who I can say is a very dear friend of mine. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. It's nice to call you a friend too. You're an amazing content creator and a great support.
Oh, well, thank you. So, Chille will actually be representing the Savage perspective of our episode today, and also the White Mage point of view. I mean, the Glare Mage point of view.
Yeah, I am a, one sec, air quotes, healer in Savage raiding. Healer.
A White Mage is casting a heal spell. You're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah, if I've got to use a GCD, I feel dirty.
Oh, that's very true. A lot of White Mages share that sentiment.
Healer.
But before we get into all of the nitty-gritty of what it means to be a healer in Final Fantasy XIV and all the wonderful conversations that's going to come from that, I do want to talk a little bit about the most recent letter from the producer. Have y'all had a chance to actually look at that yet?
Yeah, it did.
So in that particular one, I'm going to go ahead and link it in the chat. FanFest was canceled.
So sad. I was super
Yeah,
excited.
I'm really sad.
Looking forward to showing all the out-of-state friends all the wonderful food at the Gaslamp District.
Yeah.
Like Wendy's.
Yeah, I've never been to California, so I was like super interested in going for the first time.
Well, I was super looking forward to actually being able to meet all of my in-game friends for once, because it was either me going to the NA one or the London one. Still kind of tossing it up which one I was going to go to, but now the NA one, which, you know, that's kind of a responsible decision, don't you think, with the current pandemic?
Mm-hmm. It's just gonna be delayed, right?
So that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So they're
Don't
saying...
expect it to be... Sorry, carry on.
No, well, yeah, they're saying that they're going to try for, like, 2021 to see if they can make it happen. But right now they're just kind of writing 2020 off just outright.
The problem is they also said first part of 2021, which is going to be a bit iffy because you've got the Japanese Fan Fest in December, and then you've got the European Fan Fest in February, which would mean that they'd have to, for their health reasons, they really should make it at least April for North American Fan Fest.
Yeah, I would agree with that,
a few months
especially
apart, yeah.
especially with how much of a workhorse that Yoshi P is. I mean, you can see it in his face how many hours he puts in, especially during FanFest.
Yeah, last year he traveled so much, it was ridiculous. Like, he goes to, like, Australia, like, every country.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He was in London for the media tour as well.
Yeah, he was. Friends, like, got pictures of...
By the way, Brian, I just want to say those PvP shows at FanFest always fun, so I enjoyed watching people up on stage during it. I was there at the last North American.
Mm-hmm. I was actually at the EU one as well.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
I haven't actually gone to the EU one. So.
Yeah, I was a media guest, so I was there.
Oh, cool.
That's really awesome. Reizna, you were trying to jump in there for a minute?
Oh, yes. I honestly think it would be safer to push it back a little bit more because I know right now we have a quote-unquote world race for the vaccine for the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, so I guess everything is all dependent on that as well. So I guess we'll have to keep watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sooner that happens, the better and the safer that people in the world will be, especially ones like myself who does have asthma. So going outside is always really scary, especially when I have to go to the grocery store or anything like that to do necessities. But they are, it looks like they're going to try to do something online. They don't have anything like concrete, but it's an idea that they're tossing around. What do y'all think about an online fan fest? like a completely online fan fest?
Mm, I don't
Well,
know. I guess that would just be like an in-game meetup type thing, right?
Well,
I
I
would
think it
imagine.
was last fan fest they actually sold virtual tickets that you could get.
uh, all the previous FanFests have sold ticket. Well, last year they didn't sell tickets; it was streamed. But the first FanFest was the tickets were sold, and you were able to get to the concert. You were able to watch the concert live. Last FanFest, the tickets weren't sold, but you can watch the concert because of it. And yeah, Luna says it won't be the same. In my opinion, I know that this is weird for a Final Fantasy event, but
Oh,
for me, the whole point of FanFest is to meet people and talk to people in real life that you would never meet any other time of the year.
pretty much.
So,
Yeah,
I
I
agree with
agree with
that.
that.
but talking about digital event, I would actually, I, I, people are gonna hate me in the chat. And sorry if people leave for this. I want them to take some inspiration from Fortnite. I would love for them to maybe reskin the gold saucer and have some sort of in-game celebration with like some mini games that they would have, because FanFest they always host like little mini games. Would have been cool if they like have an instance of like a reskin gold saucer where they have virtual versions of the mini games they were going to have at FanFest, and then maybe have a stage and have Yoshi P a version of Yoshi P log on and do like an online,
You know
yeah,
that actually
online
would look
announcement.
that would look really cool. I think if basically making it an in-game event, but have sort of the novelties that you would see at FanFest in the
Yeah,
gold saucer.
Yeah, I could see that. It could be just like a seasonal event.
But
They'd have
then,
to break
again,
it up into instances, though.
oh yeah,
yeah, seeing that's a big thing. Like Reizna said, the amount of instances, and I mean, just like with every expansion that comes out, if you give people the opportunity to do something like that, the servers are going to be overloaded.
and
But
this is where I hate to say it, but they could charge for it. Most people are like, oh, I want it for free, but I feel like if they charged a small digital ticket to go to the event, it would lower the amount of people going.
and
Hmm.
that actually wouldn't be a bad idea either, because if they did that, you buy your virtual ticket, so to speak, and then you put in a code, and that would give you access to that particular server.
Yeah, and then you'd also get remember you normally bought the digital tickets before to watch it online for the original FanFest. So imagine if you paid $30, you get access to the instance and you get a minion an amount or whatever.
Okay, so who's ever part of PR for NA for Final Fantasy XIV and Square Enix, listen to this podcast and then do this thing. Like, go for
I'll
it.
email them right away.
So there was also another point that I saw here, with all the working from home that everyone's been having to do. Uh, a little bit further down into this producer letter, they're up to 85 to 90% capacity as far as like workflow and everything. That's pretty impressive, in my opinion. Do y'all have any thoughts about that, especially given the 5.3 delays?
Not really. That's good to hear, though. I wasn't sure what was going on with them because they didn't really say anything until now.
Yeah, let's see. This is what they say. Now, I imagine many of you are also wondering about Final Fantasy XIV's next major update. So let me take this opportunity to talk about the development status of patch 5.3. As of this moment, most of our staff has finished setting up their work from home stations and are able to access test servers, update data, and implement newly developed content. If you consider our usual pre-pandemic development production to be at 100%, we are currently sitting at 85 to 95 or 85 to 90% capability. The missing 10% can be attributed to work from home, network issues, reduced debug efficiencies, and the general stresses of adjusting to this new work environment. A gap we mean to close as time goes on.
By the way, a little behind the scenes information about some of the voice actors. None of the voice actors ever actually meet each other. Each voice actor is given an individual time and date to actually do their lines.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
at least that's how the voice actors in England work for Final Fantasy XIV.
I wouldn't know anything about the voice acting part of it. I, coming from a theater background, if I didn't have someone to sort of bounce off of and like share the energy, given lines in certain scenes, that's got to be really hard.
Yeah, I love it. I got to meet Robon's voice actor last year, and ended up having a little chat with him about it, and he told me about it. Yeah, 'cause he joked about how he wasn't even really sure who Pippin was because he'd never met the voice actor. All he knew was his lines.
Oh wow.
So I did like the fact that he did have a sense of humor because they got him on stage to tell it about who he was. People joked about Robon Ultimate, the server crashes with Stormblood. And so everyone queued up. They made a line in front of him. So, yeah, like click on it.
That's
Oh
oh,
no.
yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, everyone was stood waiting to queue up.
Oh man. Well, when you turn into to a meme, I guess you just kind of have to roll with it. Not that it was his fault that Raubon Extreme existed, but oh man. But yeah, so they're saying that they're probably going to have everything working at full capacity until like part way through June. And if I remember correctly, they're actually not going to be able to release patch 5.3 until mid July.
That was kind of expected, at least to me.
Yeah, I mean, given everything, I think that's probably a better call anyway. We're kind of already in a patch lull, and 2 weeks from now is when we'd be getting the patch. So if we have to wait, 6 more weeks from now, I don't think that that's a big ask considering how well that they've gotten everything up and running again. Because I mean, this is a whole new issue for many, many companies, not just Square Enix.
Yeah.
And being responsible for your workers' health, well-being, not to mention other parts of staffing like janitorial and stuff like that. Being able to provide a safe working environment for everybody is incredibly important.
Especially in Japan because Japanese homes are really small compared to, you know, Western. So the idea of having to fit all that computer, equipment into the tiny little room is it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Especially with the thin walls. They're pretty
Yes.
thin from what I've heard.
And my PC doesn't put out a whole lot of heat, but I can only imagine with all that equipment, it's gotta be an oven in there.
Because they've got test servers and stuff like that that have.
And they're getting closer to summer as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But that basically, I mean, there's not a whole lot of news to really talk about in Final Fantasy XIV at the moment because of the patch lull and dealing with COVID. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and jump into like the healer conversation, which I'll be honest, I don't have as much experience healing as I do tanking, but I did heal Savage in the last tier of Alex, so that was a whole lot of fun. But I wanted to start with like the casual part of the conversation. And Reizna, you're here representing the casual healing demographic. Not to say that you're a casual yourself, but lending your voice to that player base.
yes, I know usually the casual player base doesn't really get much of a voice in conversations like this. It's usually PvP gets addressed, or Savage and Ultimate most likely get addressed. So thank you for representing or bringing in the casuals. So I started healing simply really because my cousin asked me to. He was the one who got me into this game. Jack all trade. Um, his my aesthetic was fairies, and he told me that Scholar was a class, and it split off to Summoner and Scholar, and Scholar was my thing. Because pre Shadowbringers, I did try White Mage, and it put me to sleep. I'm sorry, Chille. Put me to sleep. Honestly, I would be in like the Realm Reborn dungeons, and I'm like, okay, here, here, and then I just kind of like start to nod off.
Yeah.
With Scholar, there was more micromanaging, more buttons to press. I had the choice between the two fairies, and the two fairies, Eos and Celine, actually did do something different rather than how they are now. I came in patch 2.4. It was the patch day Dreams of Ice. I played straight for a month, got to level 50, and was like, cool, now what? And so I remember playing around with my cousin. He took me through my first 24-man raids. I was scared because that's a lot of players, and it was the Crystal Tower storyline. And I was a baby healer. I'm like, oh, I don't want to DPS. Let me just press these buttons. Let me use my physic, use my adlo. You should be good. And I was a planner. When I knew a fight, I would think, okay, let me throw your adlo pre-pull and watch you for a second and see what happens and adjust accordingly. So I was mainly a planner with my healing, and as time went on, I did get more comfortable. I did start to fling some DPS, and as time went on, I'm like, okay, I can play chicken a little bit with my friend's health, just a little bit more each and every expansion. That was fun.
Yeah, that's what I like most about Scholar, especially with my particular playstyle. I'm very preemptive than I am like reactionary. I'd like to know what's happening beforehand, and if I don't know what's happening, I want to have like a plan in place just in case. So
Mm-hmm.
Scholar definitely spoke to me on that end, and that's why my main healer is Scholar. Um, but I do have a bit of a bone to pick with the fairies. You said that you had a choice
Yes.
between Eos and Celine. There was only one clear choice.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. There's only one clear choice, and that was Celine. Celine made you go fast.
Yes, yes, Feywind. I absolutely
Yes.
loved Feywind. Like, okay, sure. Eos is great when you need help, definitely. But I didn't rely on her as much as I got more comfortable. I'm like, oh, okay, my friends want a DPS. Let me just use Feywind every so often just to help them out.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Pretty
I
much.
miss that so
Yeah.
much. That's my one thing about the fairies.
And that actually makes me a little bit sad too, because you could tell a really good healer, a really good scholar rather, because we used to have stance dancing, right? And we can get into that in a little
Ah,
bit.
yes.
But not only did we have stance dancing, we had fairy dancing. And your swift cast, we were like, oh yeah, swift cast strays. You're like, no. I'm using it to bring Celine back because I had to swap over to Eos because y'all won't stop getting hit.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah, that was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. I remember those days too. I used to play Scholar
Yeah.
back then.
I
So
played Scholar for a bit.
yeah, I was gonna ask, do y'all have any opinions about Scholar?
I love the job. I used to really love the job too. I still play it like right now, but I don't think I'm that great at it compared to Glare Mage.
I get frustrated when I see scholars that don't manage their fairy at all, especially nowadays because it's not that hard really
Yeah, it's
compared to
way
what it used to
easier
be.
now.
They've reduced the amount of buttons you need to press. I remember when you had like at least
Yeah.
4 you could manage with Celine and or with Eos at least. Oh,
I actually used to have my shield heal macroed with my fairy heal so that when I used my shield heal, it'd force the fairy to heal at the
To
same
use
time.
Embrace, yes, I did
Yeah.
that too
Yeah.
with Physic and Adlo. Same with Sucker and Whispering Dawn. I used to do that too.
Yeah, all the cool things. But that brings up an interesting point. Has healing been made easier now? Looking at Scholar, I guess, from that particular lens.
I think so because you only really have two, 3 buttons to press for fairies now. You just have Whispering Dawn and Fey Elimination. If you want to use your Seraph, like your Scholar neutral sect, you can. I haven't seen very many casuals actually use it, myself included. I don't use it half as much as I should, because it's an extra shield. Honestly, it's a freebie. But it's so much easier to manage in general now. I just like, okay, hey, every 60 seconds, Whispering Dawn, move my fairy a little bit more if people are moving. Oh, we need extra help. White Mage needs extra boost. Fey Elimination. My the healing magic healing potency goes up by 10% for a few seconds, 20 seconds. Okay, we're good. But it's much easier now, and I feel sometimes a little dead inside when I'm healing. I'm like, okay, where's my challenge? I missed this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree that's been easier now than in the past. A lot of reasons because of what you said before, the pet management and just less buttons in general. Like we had to do like 2 to 3 dots and shadow flare at a time. Do you remember that?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Rip
I,
Shadowflare.
Now it's just 1 dot and Royal Ruin,
Yeah,
pretty
I
much.
used to when we had a whole bunch of like cross class skills, I would like cross class like Stone Skin from White Mage. I would get Arrow and I'd throw every
Oh
single dot I
yeah, I
could
forgot about that
on a
too.
boss and be like, okay, we're good. Let me just refresh everything. Oh, you have Stone Skin. You'll be fine for like a little bit. Tank, you'll be good.
Oh my gosh, yes, I remember doing that. I was like,
I was
hey,
that person.
I need to refresh these dots, so you're just gonna have to have a swift cast Stone Skin, and just deal with what happens next. Sorry. Oh yeah, I remember that. Those were a lot. That's when I really enjoyed healing. When we had like a ton of things to manage, and it felt back then it felt really good to be a healer because you had the capability to either make or break a run. Because you did have abilities like Stone Skin, especially with Scholar, you had the Adlo, and then you could spread that around to everyone. Um, you had the stance dancing that you could do back and forth. You had your dot management that you could look after, and then you had your shadow flare, and you actually had damage on a healer that, um, believe it or not, scholars out DPS'd White Mage back in 3.0.
No, they don't.
No, nothing does.
I had a run recently where I out damaged one of the DPS. It was so good.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah, because I know this sounds because I moved over to PC recently and I use because I play on NA servers, so I get a bit of a ping issue. I use a VPN to help it, but I'm one of those people that now I won't insult them or talk about it to them, but I will use ACT as a healer just to see how well I do in the dungeon. And I've seen myself as hell. I had one run where I was top DPS. I was like,
Yeah, that happens.
wow. Well, on a White Mage, that's really easy to do. Very easy to
yeah.
do. But with the casual point of view, what out of the three healers that we do have, which in y'all's opinion, do you think is the more, I guess, new player friendly?
White Mage.
I think White Mage as well.
White Mage. If you're brand new to healing, definitely White Mage to learn, just how to start. Because I know Scholar has the pet management and Astrologian, as when we got it, had the Royal Road aspect and dealing out the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Um,
Yeah, even like
Yeah.
Earthly Star like takes a little bit of knowledge of how to use it well and stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's
definitely White Mage, easy.
well, and white mage is considered just the beefy healer, right? So if
Well,
anything does go wrong, you can quickly bring everyone back up instead of having to shield them and hope that your fairy hit everybody with the regen.
but everyone's within range of the fairy at least.
yeah.
That
And
gets
if
really
you're not,
frustrating.
then it's your own fault.
I
So
think it's 15 yalms.
is it that short, really?
Hold on, let me look.
15 yalms? That's wild. That's scary.
We had a question. Someone said that Shields I said, as a healer, you mad that Dancer wasn't a healer? I'm still a little sad, to be honest.
Me too, but I do like Dancer as it is right now.
Yeah, I would say I like Dancer as another physical range option because we don't have very many of those. Um, while it would have been really cool to have Dancer as a healer, I'm just glad that we got a Chakram wielder.
Yeah.
Interesting that they went Chakrams to Dancer and didn't give Ninja the option, but maybe they had this planned all along. Doubtful,
But
but I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think they do plan like super ahead of time.
oh yeah, they
Maybe.
do. Remember that most of the story is planned a couple of expansions beforehand. Like they've already got up to 7.0 planned. So
Yeah.
they haven't done all the details, but the idea, the rough sketches and rough ideas are planned.
Well, that's good to know.
Like how Dancer is eventually going to get other weapons rather than just chakrams.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that part. At some point, I'm going to unlock Dancer. I just don't know when. I have other things I have to level at the moment, like Astro.
Yeah.
But so if you're going into content and you just want to sort of fall asleep, and this may be an overwhelming answer from everyone again, um, you have to do your weeklies, and you just kind of don't want to pay a whole lot of attention. What healer are you going with? I go with Scholar every time because that's just what I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah. I'd say Scholar.
Dungeons, I still like to do White Mage because you just like holy and use lilies on people. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
I would agree with Talon. I would also go Scholar, because Fairy, and I like using Art of War in mobs.
That's true.
Art of War feels really good. I still want my Shadow Flare back though.
Same.
Having just one AoE skill makes me feel. I still find myself hitting the Heaven's Word rotation where my buttons used to be. I'm like, oh, oops.
Yeah, if you want to go mindless, yeah, I would go Scholar. But if you're trying to focus a little bit, I would probably say White Mage because of the damage potential.
Yeah, that's very true. So when it comes to healing now, there's this huge debate. Well, and not even now. This has been an ongoing conversation since 2.0, really. What is a healer's role within any sort of content, from casual all the way to, you know, savage to PvP? What is the healer's job? A lot of people say, well, I'm a healer, so I should only heal. Others say, well, you also have damage abilities. You need to be using those too. Where do you guys fall in line in that conversation?
Well, for PvE, this game is 100% designed for healers to DPS. Even like early in like the storyline, for the White Mage storyline, they like kind of hints that you should be DPSing. Remember that one NPC?
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but yeah.
Are you talking about Sylphie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just how the game is designed. I personally like it like that. That's kind of what got me interested in healing because I did start off Dragoon. I started at the same patch as
Yo,
you,
my
Reizna.
boy, Dragoon.
Yeah, I started the same patch as you, 2.4, and then what got me into playing White Mage was seeing people DPS with Holy and also being, the main healer. That was super fun to me.
Very cool. I mean, I think that healers should be doing all the damage, um, especially like when you look at it from 2.0. Overhealing used to be a big issue, right? So if
Yeah.
you weren't playing yo-yo with your party's life, you were technically unoptimized. Some people would even say doing it wrong. I'm gonna say unoptimized because if you overhealed, you didn't get that mana back, and we did not have the mana regeneration that we do now. Not anywhere close to it.
Yeah.
Um,
And another thing is aggro. Back then you get
Yeah.
aggro. If you were like a Medica 2 spammer or something.
oh, regen pre-pull.
Please don't. Oh God, the
No, no,
memories.
no, no.
I just
I
triggered
swear
all the
I swear
healers in
them.
the world with that statement.
Oh
Yeah, that was a big thing. But yeah, because not only did you have your healer aggro that you had to worry about, you were doing damage on top of that. So it wasn't uncommon to see one of the healers in your group at second DPS, and not just second DPS or not DPS on the aggro list, but they were really close to actually taking it. So
I mean, yeah, if you died because you missed the mechanic or didn't block, there's a high chance that when the tank died, they'll go straight to the healers.
mm-hmm. Reizna, what do you think, representing the casual base? What do you think about the whole healer DPS issue?
I've noticed that the casual player base is pretty split. Half of us are like, oh, we're healers, we should only heal, whereas like the other half is like, but yes, we also have DPS spells. But I guess it's also finding that balance. I personally say if you're comfortable DPSing, then DPS. If you're more comfortable healing, healing. But I know a lot of the casual player base doesn't really go into extreme trials as often, savages or ultimates or PvP as often. Um, so it's very in the middle. We're still trying to figure out, and I think it's really up to the individual. I DPS when I can personally, but I know if um, if the tank dies, I need to get them up. But if I'm the one um, who's second in aggro, I need to run and try to get them up as fast as possible. Hopefully, I did not burn my swift cast doing something else.
Yeah.
Light glare.
Because Scholar doesn't have anything like light speed or presence of mind, so I use my swift cast when I can.
Yeah, that's a mood, honestly. But that also begs the question too, like with like just the normal raids and the dungeons, is healer DPS even required? I mean, should it be a thing that newer players or casual players need to focus on?
Required, no, but you definitely, in my opinion, you definitely should like learn to do it just because you wanna have a faster run and not slow things down for other people. That's how I
Just
feel
think,
about it.
Mm-hmm.
just think. The faster the enemy dies, the less healing you have to do because there's less enemy.
Very true.
Spoken like a true white mage. But coming from a tank perspective, if the boss dies faster, that's less cooldowns that I have to use, which means that's less healing that you have to do. But also, they've given tanks a lot more toolkits to mitigate and to heal themselves. So, you know, that's where it's just kind of one of those things. When you're in a dungeon, do you tell the healer, hey, would you mind throwing out a broil every now and then, or do you just kind of run through it?
Oh, in casual content, I definitely don't nag the healer
Yeah.
because it's casual.
Yeah, I don't tell them anything.
No, I don't see.
Even, yeah, no. I don't want to judge them on their playstyle because yes, I should heal more than I damage, but I that's me. I'm not. I don't expect everyone to play like I do.
But that also goes into a higher skill cap, which leads us into our Savage conversation, where healing and DPS may not necessarily be necessary in the casual format, but when you get into Savage, it's almost necessary.
Oh yeah, you need to reach a certain amount of damage for your group to. The best way to test is to really please, if you're gonna do Savage, I'm gonna beg to everyone in chat right now, anyone who listens to this, please go do Sky Stone Sea or whatever the new current one is called, and then you'll be able to test your damage against a dummy, and then you'll be able to see if you actually reach the DPS threshold without actually using a third party tool. So please go do that, please.
No matter what your job, I'll send that as a caveat too. No matter what your job is, if you're interested in doing any kind of Savage content, see where you're at. Go and fight the Stone Sky Sea dummy of the fight you're trying to prog, just to see if you as an individual can clear it.
Though at previous tier I was a monk, and I must admit though, I always felt like it was unfair for monk because we used to have something called Forbidden Shackle where we got buffs from our teammates, but because you didn't have your teammates in there, you couldn't do it. Is that well? That's a lot of damage, man.
Oh yeah, that's and Stone Sky Sea isn't perfect in its implementation, and especially with the healers, I think that they need to add like another little side dummy or something that's taken like that has damage ticking away on it.
Oh yeah.
While you're also trying to do damage, I think that would be fair. But
that'd be good.
Getting SE to do something like that would probably be asking for a lot because that's a lot more.
I don't know if they could do it either. I don't know if there's any way they could do it.
Maybe a dot effect.
Yeah. Maybe. The dot would be the average damage the boss would do, but then you'd have to factor in abilities as well. So, like tank busters.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. How would you script that? And then people would probably go in there and abuse the like, oh well, if a tank buster comes out, however many minutes or however many GCDs, and the Stone Sky Sea, that must be how it works in the Savage fight, and then gives you an extra advantage to sort of
not just that, but also with the tank, like, okay, so they've somehow programmed the bot to hit this dummy and do tank busters. You'd then have to register when the tank would use cooldowns and stuff like that for mitigation.
Right. But see, then that would add another dynamic point to like the way the tanks do it, because then they could rotate their cooldowns, but then that's getting into like a system that's sort of like WoW has with their striking dummies. That's very similar what we're describing there.
Mouse and Radio, by the way, it's near Yulmore. If anyone wants to know where it is, it's near Yulmore, just outside.
But when it comes to Savage fights and everything, how crucial is it for healers to not only do the DPS that's necessary, but how crucial is it to have that skill set to be able to heal and do damage at the same time? Is it one of those things that, well, if I just throw out a few dots and I use stone a few times, I'll be all right? Or is it really one of those things where you need to have both down pretty well?
I want to say when you're first starting the raid tier, it's actually probably more crucial than when you get on later in the tier. Because at the start of the tier, everyone's got barely the equipment to get in, especially on an expansion launch. So your extra DPS from healing be probably what helps you reach the enrage timer before you have as much issue. Once the DPS start getting gear from the drop from the weeklies, chances are it's not going to matter as much. But of course, you also getting gear will help mean the fights will go shorter than they were before. But yeah, when it first starts, healing DPS is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of, well, not kind of, I really agree with that sentiment. Just because when it comes to Savage, you've got to be on your game. You've got to be on your game 100%. But when it does come to damage, what is everybody's thoughts? We brought it up earlier in the podcast. Cleric stance. Do we miss that? Do we want it
No,
back?
no,
No.
no.
Why no?
Yeah. Why no?
I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious why you say no.
I just feel like there's enough buttons to press without adding an extra button just to do more damage and less healing.
I'm thinking about it right now, and it did add tiny bit of more skill to the game because you got to be wise in when you're going to use it,
Yeah.
like switch it off and on. But I don't know if it's necessary anymore because we just like raw DPS now without needing a buff. I don't know how I feel. Mixed feelings.
Yeah,
If
I
it came
mean,
back, it would just end up with one person press it, having it on the entire time, and then the other person not using it.
oh yeah, back in
Yeah,
Alex when your Astro would just leave Cleric Stance on and you'd let the white mage heal. Oh.
it probably even worse. It'd probably turn into both people having cleric sense as long as possible and optimizing it that way.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
it'll
and
be
then
just
one,
healer chicken.
yeah, one person turning it off.
As a tank, that's a terrifying game. I don't like it when healers play that. I don't. I really don't. I get super spooked. But you know, personally, I miss Cleric Stance. I miss Cleric Stance because I liked having that extra bit of brain power. You know, to have something else to pay attention to. And I know, like, She Heals, I Tank had mentioned it, like protect and things like that. They basically just brought all the numbers up to sort of like it's always there anyway. So it's the way that the game is now. It's like we always have Cleric Stance on,
Yeah.
and we always have
Yeah.
Protect going. And that's cool and everything. But I did like it when you could manage that and you could burst it. But then when they made the change in 4.0 where Cleric Stance was only like, what was it?
buff.
It was just
A
like a
little buff.
10, 15
like-
second buff.
I think it was 15 to about maybe 20
Yeah,
seconds.
15 seconds.
So that was, I think, the best implementation of it. I preferred that a whole lot more than the 3.0 and the 2.0 version of it. I just
Yeah.
kind of wish they would bring that part back, the 4.0 Cleric Stance back.
It was basically a berserk for healers.
Yes. And so, like, if they brought that back now, given the way that White Mage is, I think that would be really cool that you had, like, a burst window. And that was also back when, like, you super had to line up, like, your trick attack and your battle litany and things like that. Your warrior, why am I drawing a blank on this right now? Your berserk. I can't remember what it is right now. Basically, the thing that makes you do 100 fell cleaves.
I think all the white mages here, all the healers here, are just gonna agree with me though that they're really, really, really happy that they don't have to Asuna the warrior anymore.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh my god.
That was when you had the macro, hey, I'm using berserk. Make sure you use
yes.
Asuna.
Someone in chat said, "What was cleric stance?" Cleric stance, my martyr dog said, it was basically you could lower your healing potency but increase your healing damage potency. Well, damage potency.
Yeah.
And then they changed it so it just increases your damage potency, and then it went poof.
They removed it.
Mm-hmm. It was really, really cool in, like, concept, but in practicality, it did, like we talked at the beginning of the show, how there was this split between people who think you should DPS more and people who think you should heal more. Back when we had cleric stance in its original implementation, it was far worse than it is now. Like absolutely worse.
If I'm rightly, Square Enix had to have had major issues with buffs with healers because of cleric stance, because they had trouble buffing their damage without breaking it with cleric stance.
Yeah,
Because the
Yeah.
damage wasn't doing enough without it, but with it on, it was doing too much. So it was a big hassle for them.
It made the gap between healer players enormous.
yeah, it did. It really did. And that was also back when we had stats that we could allocate, and so that you would have healers putting things into intelligence versus mind, so that because their damage was scaled off of their intelligence stat versus their mind stat, which was wild back then. So you're absolutely right. It did make a pretty large gap. But then that brings us to the next topic. Now that everything's kind of been rounded out a little bit, are all the healers a little homogenized?
Don't think so. I feel like they've all got their little niches, except for Astrologia, but for that for reasons of what the game was designed for. But White Mage has its burst heals, has its damage. Scholar has its shields and emergency heals if need be. And Astrologian just is in the middle and does stuff.
Yeah, when I
And
swap
guards.
when I swap between them, I feel like they're different jobs compared to like tanks where they all feel the same.
Yeah,
Please
I'm
do.
just dying inside a little bit, but yeah.
Someone said it. It wasn't me.
But I feel like I hate to say it, I know this will sound weird, but because we're healers, we can feel the difference between all three healers. But because we're not tanks, the tanks just look like tanks, and the melee DPS all look like melee DPS. Unless you're actually playing the job yourself that you'll see the differences between the jobs. So a monk might go, "Oh, you healers and tanks, you're all about the same, right? You heal and tank." I was the same when I used to be a monk.
That's true. I agree with you. I do play all the tanks too, but not Gunbreaker. I got them
Yeah.
all at 80.
Wow. That's okay. I'm not offended by that. It's cool. It's cool.
We all know Paladin's the best tank anyway.
Yo! Okay, hold on.
Thanks, Car Pants. You can slap
No,
on your
no,
ear later.
this is blasphemy. This is lies. Go, if Carter Pants is listening, he's about to explode in chat. But made me lose my train of thought. Yo, Gunbreaker wins. Yeah, see, thank you, Serenity. I appreciate that. But yeah, so that is actually a very, very fair point. And we've talked about White Mage and we've talked about Scholar, but we haven't really got into Astro as far as like the job mechanics or anything. When it comes to complexity, at least now here in 5.0, I feel like Astro has a ton of complexity, but the payoff is so little.
Agree. Yeah, that's just how it is. Because it's mostly managing the cards and then also knowing when to earthly star optimally, and it's a lot of buttons to weave in and keeping eye on who gets what card. But when you start to get used to it, it becomes easier. At least, just takes practice, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's like with a lot of things, but the more practice you put into it, the more comfortable you get. But it seems like when it comes to picking up Astro, you put in all of this work. It's like back in 3.0 Ninja. You put all of this work in to get everything lined up, and you had to make sure you had the ping just right and everything. And you put all this work in. It didn't matter how much you put in. You always were just underperforming or felt like you were underperforming. And right now, when I'm currently leveling Astro, I feel like, man, I'm trying real hard, and I'm struggling, struggling bad. Um, am I the only one who sort of feels that way?
No, I agree. That's why I said earlier I don't even use it in dungeons. The only time I really use it in raids is if like there is a white mage and scholar and I like, oh okay, I'll just play the Astro for the group.
Yeah, that's true. And Astro can being able to swap between region and shields. How do we feel about the healer dichotomy that we have? The heal she excuse me, the region healer versus the shield healer. And is that even something that we need to stick with?
Hmm. Feels nice having both. Um, I think the game should probably continue that way. I don't know.
Resin, do you have an idea about that?
Um, I've dabbled a little bit in Astro, so I've played it a couple times. I got it to 80, but I'm no expert. I watched one of my static members actually play it. Um, I when I played it, I preferred shield healing rather than regen healing. Maybe just because of my scholar background, I do find that it eats a little bit more MP. So I'm just like, okay, I'll switch over. But I find myself healing a little bit more with regens. But I do think um, I like it the way it is because it's kind of the middle ground, I think, between scholar and white mage. So casuals like it, like having the choice, and also the aesthetics are really nice. So
Well, I would agree with
those
that.
are my thoughts.
Astro is all the aesthetic. It's kind of why I'm leveling in it right now because I like space. um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It could be because I don't have Astro to 80 just yet, but it just like when things go wrong in a dungeon or in just the normal raids, um, it feels like it's really hard for me to recover. Whereas on the other two healers, it's not so much as an issue. But that just could be my inexperience with it, for
It's
sure.
definitely the hardest in my opinion. So I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's I would agree with that. I've been able to kind of grab a hold of White Mage and more or less know how it works. Scholar, you know, from a while back, but Astro has been very tough to learn. Very, very tough to learn. But when we were talking about the shields and the heals, um, we're coming up to 6.0 very soon. You know, we were talking about FanFest and everything. And at this
Yeah.
point, we would have already gotten, like, Yoshi P would have come out, like, in whatever t shirt he would come out in, right? Um, and we would be
Yep.
able to speculate what that is. I think the majority of the player base is already on board with the next job is going to be a healer. Um,
Yeah.
but we
I hope
have
so.
this. What was that?
I hope so, I said.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think that there's going to be a massive blowback if it's not, uh, which would be
Though I don't
understandable.
know what they're exactly going to do with another healer
See, and
because it's
that's
going to
that's
be
my point. Like, because we have the shield healer and we have regen healer. What other kind of healer could we have, and do we need to stay with that dichotomy?
Yeah, I think the next one just has to be a mix somehow as well. They just got to figure it
yeah.
out. Just like
I still want
I,
to go with chemist still.
I'm gonna agree with that.
With chemist,
Yeah.
I want chemist so bad it's not even funny because I love tactics. Tactics is my third favorite Final Fantasy game. I love it so much, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't do that because we already have alchemists." It's like, listen, no, you can just make potions out of ether, okay?
Yeah, you're
I
just gonna
mean,
have
you
a
just
magic.
exactly, and you just throw it in your bottle and you hit somebody over the head with a glass bottle, and that's how you heal them, and
Yeah.
that's your
Well, it won't even probably be proper glass just to make it. It'll be like magic glass. Yeah.
Or
They don't want people throwing glass at other people, okay?
not the safest, I don't think.
Yeah. I
It'll
mean,
be like plastic bottles or something.
they could do it in a way that would like make sense, or even if it's like not in a bottle itself, like you have the healing orb in your hand and you toss it that way.
Yeah.
They could make it work, is all I'm saying. Um,
Luna Dragon said Geomancer's fair about for healer. I want to. Brian, you've done the Astrologian quest, haven't you? I
Yeah,
can't remember all of it exactly, but I really want to put a stamp down on Geomancer as a possible job.
definitely.
Just
Mm-hmm.
because it is exactly like Astrologian in the game.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's in the lore in a couple places, but definitely in the Astro Quest.
Especially in
Yeah,
the 4.0 quest.
Mhm. And isn't there like some mobs a little bit that use like bells in one of the Stormblood
Yeah.
Oh
dungeons?
yeah, in Swallow's Compass.
Yeah, so highly possible. But do we think it could be a healer? Because
I mean, it would be.
Geomancer could go towards DPS too.
Well, see, here's my thing about Geomancer, also pulling from tactics. If we do get Geomancer as a healer, it's going to be more of a sort of like how Dancer is more of a support DPS. Yes, it does do DPS, but it's more on the supporting end. I feel like if we get Geomancer, it is going to be a healer, but it's going to be more on the supporting end where it would have more like actual CC, and I guess that's crowd control. It would have more like dot management and like buffing of the party. When you think about Geomancer from Final Fantasy Tactics, if you wanted the boss to not, or the enemy to not hit as hard or have trouble getting to you, you would make vines grow underneath them, and it would like cause a debuff or something. I could see that being a major thing. So like, let's say we put vines underneath the boss, and the vines are a dot, and while those dots are ticking, it will do an AoE heal around it within like 10 yalms that ticks however much potency, let's say 200 potency for everyone that's around it. That would be a pretty
That'd be
good.
pretty cool.
That's basically Asylum,
Yeah.
Sacred Soil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Our size.
But this one would also do damage as well. So that's another one
That's
where.
White Mage. White Mage is our size does AoE damage, heal, and restores mana.
Oh yeah, so it could be exactly like a size. Oh, I say exactly like it, but it could function very similar. But out of those two that we kind of postulate, what would you prefer to see?
Geomancer here.
I mean, I'm still chemist, absolutely chemist.
I'm still chemist as well.
Chemist, because it could have like. Oh no.
It
I'm
also
sorry.
makes me think of Riku from 10 when she does her little like mixing of like all bad potions and things like that. That's also what first comes to mind when I think chemist.
Oh,
Because you could have like damage potions, like fire potions, and
I think the reason why I want Geomancer a little more is because it existed in Final Fantasy XI, and I
Yeah,
feel
it
like they could like take some of those ideas and definitely put it into 14.
oh yeah, they most definitely could. I'm just recently started playing 11, and I think it's not as bad as people like to say that it is. Um, there are some really good ideas that can be moved over to 14 from 11, and I wish
like
they'd be a little more.
besieged. I want besieged. Damn it.
But Reizna, you brought up a really good point about the Albed thing. So we have Ronsos or Rothgar right now in Final Fantasy XIV. So if we did get a chemist, it wouldn't be a far fetched thing to have like the Albeds be the one to teach us that, since there's already sort of like a mixing of ideas there. So now you've gotten me really hyped for that idea. super hyped for that idea, I guess I should say. But I want to see a new healer, but I want to also see a healer that's not a shield or regen. Personally, I want to move away from that.
I'd be down, but I don't think they will. It's,
No.
it's just super duper duper hard to balance because there's gonna they don't want it to be like one is gonna be the best out of the four. So I already know they don't. If they do something like that, like one is super supportive, it's gonna be really good. And yeah, hard to balance, but we'll see.
We'll see. Like I hear people bring up that point quite a bit, but like you look at melee DPS, which one is the standout there as far as damage is concerned? What a DPS is supposed to do? It's samurai.
Well, that's different though. That DPS is Samurai's designed to only be DPS and not support. Same as Black Mage is designed to be a DPS and not support.
True, but then when you look at the physical range, they're all pretty balanced as well. Or am I just ignorant about that particular topic?
No, Machinist I think is a little bit higher than the rest now. I think. I could be wrong.
Well, I only have machinist leveled in that regard, so I can't talk a whole lot about it. But I'm not sure that like the healer balance is a little atrocious, and it seems like it's really really hard to balance. And so I guess there is that point that Brian was saying that trying to move away from shields and regions could be more catastrophic later on down the road.
Yeah.
But I guess that sort of is what it is in that regard. But before we end or get too far away, because we're running pretty late, and I do want to cover this topic too. PvP when it comes to healing. I've never healed in PvP before because that's super intimidating. Brian, what is it like to be a healer in PvP?
First, can I ask, has Reizna or Chille, have you guys done it before?
Not in Feast, but I've done it in the bigger arenas.
I've done frontline. I've switched between healer and physical range DPS for frontline. But I will admit I am an absolute chicken because I know they go for the healers and the physical range first. So I'm like, I'm gonna take a break for a little bit. So, like, any tips and tricks you'd like to share?
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
So
I have too much fun. Sorry, I have too much fun when I go as summoner, just because I like cackling as Bahamut chases people around.
totally understood. I love to DPS and frontlines and rival wings too. So healing in those modes, yeah, Rezna's pretty much right. It's pretty much go for the healer. So it's just all about learning like how to position and not going in too deep so people won't catch you. But I say you should try and like overcome your nerves when it comes to that because every group is gonna need a healer if you want to win. So.
So you hear that, everyone? You need a healer to win.
Yeah. So in frontlines and rival wings, you can just change jobs inside. So if you like don't see a healer in your alliance, you may want to swap if you're brave enough. People will like really be happy about that. As for the jobs, I personally say all of them are really good. Like you can play whatever you want in frontlines and rival wings, but I like playing Scholar. Scholar can get battle high really easy because you're doing a lot of like DPS stuff, like boluses and broil, and battle high is basically buffs your healing numbers even more. So it's pretty good to play that. And Rival Wings, White Mage is really good. Rival Wings is the one with the max. I don't know if you guys done that one.
Yeah, I've dabbled in it a little bit. I think it's pretty fun. It's more novel than it is anything else, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
I've done it once, I think.
I did it when it first came out, but then I couldn't be bothered waiting for the queues.
Yeah. So the queues are actually really good right now because the Mog Tombstone event. So it's like pretty much instant pop in most data centers. But I'd say White Mage is really good to bring there because Dia does defense down, and having a defense down on a big robot allows like the whole alliance to like jump on that and kill them really quick. So that's my opinion on the roles there. But you can play whatever you want, but that's just I think White Mage is really good for Rival Wings.
That's, I mean, all of this is great information for me because I mean I enjoy PvP quite a bit, but when I PvP I jump on Warrior because you know the fell cleaves in PvP is just it feels real good.
Home gang is like delicious in PvP.
Oh
too.
my gosh, you're like, oh, I'm gonna line of sight you, oh, but if you didn't though, yoink.
Yeah.
Especially on healers.
That's how I've died. The times I've been in front line, that's literally how I've died. I've either been like stunned, heavied, or home game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, goodbye, here I go.
That's like the job of everyone to do is to get rid of the healer, just CC them.
Yeah.
We
And
do have the purify ability, but it's only once every 45 seconds, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes to feast, which you know, Brian, you kind of have some bragging rights and some flex to do there. Uh, have you done any healing in feast?
Yeah. So last season, I was pretty much all Astro. Astro was quite good last season, and as well as White Mage. But I played Astro just because I love how it operates there. So in PvP, Astro can do Benefic 1, and that gives them an ability called Abridged, which makes their Benefic 2 instacast. So imagine like light speed every time you do Benefic 1. And so I played it there. Right now, this current season, it's okay balance wise. Right now, Scholar does really well with when paired with Dark Knight. It's like borderline broken because Dark Knight has a heal down ability with Edge of Shadow, and then Scholar Paralysis does heal down, and those two things stack together, and it makes it like impossible for like the enemy healer to heal and feast.
Take notes.
Yeah, I'm over here like literally writing these things down. I'm like, okay, so this is what I do here. That's how that lines up.
Yeah, Feast has a lot of like little information and little details that it doesn't really get out there because it's not a very popular mode.
Yeah, and
But
see, that's why I wanted to have you on to give that perspective, and that's been a goal of like the this podcast is to have every aspect of the game represented, like the PvP part, the casual part, and the savage part, because they're all parts of the game. And I'll go ahead and say this, that PvP is fun if you do feast, but you just need to give it a chance. Just try it.
yeah,
Just try it.
yeah, that's my biggest thing to say. Yeah, I understand PvP is not for everyone. Some people don't like the competitive environment, but definitely give it a try. Like if you like front lines and rival wings, there's a high chance, you will like doing 4v4 PvP, which is the feast.
Mm-hmm. Heavy
And
agree.
and yeah, when you like with practice, there's a chance you'll likely get top 100, get on the leaderboard, get that unique reward.
Yeah. Actually, when I tried PvP in Stormblood, and I actually, gave it the old college try, as it were, I made gold within 3 days.
Oh my god, that's really good actually.
Oh,
So,
that's really good.
um, unfortunately, my team, we all kind of like, yeah, let's take a break, and then we didn't go back in for a little while. And so we deranked. Well, not necessarily deranked, but people got above us, and it
Uh-huh.
made the average. So I ended up in silver. But gold in 3 days, I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I say that to say that, if you go in there, especially like with a pre-made, like with some friends, it can be a whole lot of fun, and it's really satisfying when you start to figure it out.
So there's two feast queues. There's the solo queue, which everyone just goes in solo. You get teammates based on ranked matchmaking, and then there's the ranked one, like the light party one, the 4v4 pre-made that you were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
which is you have to have 4 friends or 3 plus yourself to go in with. And yeah, right now it's a solo queue season.
Yeah, and I think I asked Dynamic Taru this the last episode, but Brian, I wanted to get your opinion on this too. I don't remember if it was this season or the last season where Square Enix basically said, "Yeah, this is a season, but you're getting nothing for it." How did you feel about that? And correct me whether it was this season or last season.
I think you're speaking of the Wolf Callers rewards
Mm-hmm.
last season. Yeah, so we last season, so every season we get top 100, the top 100 players get unique armor or mount, depends on the season. And the top 10 players get Wolf Collars, which goes towards weapons, and the rank 1 player gets a trophy. But the last season they removed the Wolf Collars, and so some people were like didn't understand why, and yeah, it did suck, but you can still like top 100 is like the main thing people go for anyway, so it wasn't a big impact for the community, I would say.
Well, I was definitely one of those ones that didn't understand at all why we were not getting a reward for like the wolf collars.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know. Oh yeah, and I should clarify, like, well, you also get with colors based on your rank. So like if you're gold rank, you get like 5, and
hmm
if you're platinum, you get 6, diamond get 7, bronze get like 3, something like that.
Yeah,
So
it's something like that. But do you have even like being as someone who plays Feast and PvP quite often? Do you even have like an idea of maybe why they decided to do that this round? Because it's kind of
no.
seemed out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere. Some people say it was like a development thing, but that doesn't make sense to me personally because it's not like the wolf calls were a new thing. They're already in the
Exactly.
game. They're already in the game, so like, why did they stop it?
Yeah, that's
But
just
this season, we're getting wolf callers again, and they're adding new weapons. They're adding dancer and gunbreaker weapons finally.
gonna be joining Feast again, so look out for me.
Yeah, I hope they look good.
Same.
We'll see.
They
We'll
look
see. We'll
good.
see them in 5.3.
My favorite weapons are the blood weapons from the feast rewards. They're so cool, so cool. Um, but we are running really late, and I know it's super late for Chile. Though I like having a whole lot of fun with these conversations. It time flew by really quickly. Um, but before we go and before we start like wrapping things up, I need to ask quick fire, just one quick fire question for all of you, and we can just start with Brian, then go to Reizna, and then go to Chile. Um,
Sure.
your favorite healer, go.
White Rage.
Resna,
Uh, Astro, because I can make Yu-Gi-Oh jokes all day, every day.
Chile.
White Mage.
Oh well, and I'm over here on Scholar. Womp womp.
I
That's
mean
good.
so
We
much.
got we got balance at least.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I was again super nervous to have this episode. This is only the second one, um, but Brian, Resna, Chili, thank you all very much for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation and be on the show. It means a ton to me. Brian, would you mind telling everybody where they can find you and what you got going on?
Yeah, sure. So the best place to find me is on my Twitch. I do stream about 30 to 40 hours a week. Mostly PvP, like I said, but you can catch me do like weekly raids sometimes. Oh, you already linked it. Yeah, that's my channel. It's just Brian Ricardo. And I do have a YouTube channel where I put basic feast stuff, but it's not. It's kind of hard to make PvP guides, but I'll link it in chat too. It's also Brian Ricardo.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Uh,
more than welcome to.
yeah, and
Uh,
one more thing, since I talked a lot about PvP, I'm gonna link the PV Discord, which is a learning Discord for Feast.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's a
Oh,
very, very. I'm part of that. Well, I say I'm in that Discord. I should say, it's really, really cool. If you are interested in PvP in any aspect, go check out the Discord. It's very helpful.
Yeah, and that's about it for me.
Cool. I will say that Brian does do some really fun PvP streams. I've been able to tune into some of them, and oh my gosh, it's intense. Like, even if you don't like maybe participating in it, watch it. It will get your blood going. I promise. It will, like, it's intense. But again, Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Reizna, where can people find you, and what are you up to? You have a lot of really cool things coming up.
I do. You can mainly find me Monday through Friday on Twitch. Talon, Talon has linked to my channel as well. I mainly play Final Fantasy XIV, Persona 5 Royal, and also FF7 Remake. I tend to cycle through games a lot. And you can also find me on Twitter. Pretty active on Twitter, showing off my the fan art and fan merchandise that I purchased from a lot of the Final Fantasy XIV fan artists. Um, right now, I'm also helping raise money for the Black Lives Matter movement. I am supporting the um, People City Council Freedom Fund for Los Angeles and also the Las Vegas Freedom Fund as well. Any proceeds from my channel will go to those two places. So, yeah, that's mainly what I do. Thank you for having me here, Talon.
No, thank you for being here. It does mean a lot, and we've been saying it back and forth a little bit, but I am really glad that I had the opportunity to meet you and to get to know you. You're a really awesome person, and I like what you're doing over on your channel. I think you have a lot of really awesome things coming your way.
Thank you. I'm glad I met you too.
Chille, the the man who I guess a lot of this came about because of. What do you have going on, and where can people find you?
Well, obviously, you can always find me at twitch.tv/seekers I tank.
Yeah, that's exactly right. uh,
Normally, that'd be recording a podcast right now, but Pete's gone off with protesting. So go, Pete.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, joking aside, you can find me at twitch.tv/Moogle Go Around Radio. We've just recently recorded episode 98.
Yep.
98. Yeah, 98. Maths up. Numbers are hard when you get that high up. With Mr. Happy. So that was an interesting episode. We're getting ready to hype for episode 100 in the future. But yeah, you can occasionally catch us streaming Final Fantasy. I stream my raid nights on a Thursday. And I stream Final Fantasy 14 occasionally, but it's been a bit of a break because I've been taking a little bit of break from the game apart from raid nights. But hopefully, maybe Sausage content will be leveled up soon. Sausage content, the greatest meat seller on Balmont. Buy his meat.
Yeah, that's sausage. Looking for more content from Sausage McContent. Those are always quality.
Also, my amazing co-host Paul as well, who was on the previous episode.
Yeah, y'all did a really awesome episode. Y'all have been having a lot of really, really cool guests on Moogle Go Around here recently. Y'all had Misoso on. Y'all have had Mr. Happy. Y'all have had Mione on here recently. Y'all have a lot of really cool things going on over there on Moogle Go Around.
Our
I'm
next
excited.
guest is going to be good as well.
I can't wait. Have a little insider information there, but I'm gonna keep quiet because that's what you do. But look forward to hearing about those announcements. Make sure you follow all of these amazing guest hosts here. Their Twitch names are there on screen that you can see. Make sure you go follow them and give them support on their individual Twitch channels. And you can find me at Talon Broadbent, capital T, capital B. You can also find me here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Talon_Broadbent. This has been episode 2 of the Broadbent broadcast, talking about healers. The next one that we're going to have lined up will be talking about melee DPS. So we're going to try to cover all of the different roles in the game. So we've done tanks, we've done healers, now we're going to go into melee. And I'm really going to be excited for that. Guys, this has been awesome. Y'all are helping me realize a dream of mine for a very, very long time. It does mean a lot that y'all would come and be on the show, especially when someone's just starting out. I know that can be a kind of a leap of faith, so I appreciate you having that faith in me.
Happy to be here.
The amount of support you've showed us, it's not really a leap of faith because we know how much of a good person you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
the
agree.
least I can do.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Brian, Reizna, Chille, you're awesome. Everyone who tuned in, thank you very much. I've had a lot of supporters. Thank you for the hosts, for the follows, and before we actually went live, we had a sub come out. That was Raven. Thank you very much. And for all of you out there in the world, no matter what it is that you're doing, be safe, be kind, take care.